99% of guys out there think they need to drop $3 grand on some shiny new space-age magnum caliber just to put a standard whitetail in the freezer. And honestly, it is costing them a small fortune in burned-up barrels, blown-out shoulders, and absolutely ridiculous ammunition prices every single hunting season. But the cold, hard truth is that the legendary 30-06 Springfield still hits like a runaway freight train and absolutely dominates the deer woods from coast to coast. You probably think your grandfather's old wooden bolt gun is the only way to run this classic cartridge, but you have absolutely never seen the insane technological upgrades hitting the shelves this year. So stop buying hyped-up plastic trash just because a bench rest fanboy told you to. And listen close, because we are locking in the absolute 8 best 30-06 deer hunting rifles in 2026. Kicking things off at number 8, we have the Ruger American Generation 2. Look, the original Ruger American shook the cheap rifle market to its core, but this new generation turns a budget plinker into a dedicated hunting machine, tipping the scales at an ultralight 6.4 to 6.6 pounds. This rig swings fast in the thick timber. It slings 30-06 downrange with authority, and the 20-inch spiral fluted barrel keeps the overall length short enough to maneuver in a tight blind. Under the hood, the secret to its accuracy is the patented power bedding system. Instead of just screwing the action into a cheap piece of plastic, Ruger molded heavy steel V-blocks directly into the stock. These metal blocks bite into the receiver, locking it down completely while allowing the barrel to free float without any pressure points. This means your barrel harmonics stay absolutely consistent shot after shot, eliminating the accuracy drift you usually get with budget polymer stocks. Now let's talk about the trigger. The Marksman adjustable trigger snaps cleanly like stepping on a frozen twig. And honestly, despite the lightweight frame, the factory-installed radial port muzzle brake tames the kick beautifully. It redirects that expanding gas so well that the recoil just gives you a polite shove instead of a brutal shoulder punch. But here is the deal breaker. The ergonomics of that splatter finish stock are violently aggressive. If you are running bare hands on a cold morning, that texture feels exactly like gripping 60 grit sandpaper and will absolutely chew up your palms. Setting up the length of pull is easy with the included spacers, taking you from 12 inches out to 13.75 inches. Out the door, this rig sets you back around 729 to 769. It is a blue-collar tack driver that delivers the goods without requiring a second mortgage. Next up at number 7, we have the Savage 110 Trail Hunter. Built like a blue-collar powerhouse, this heavy hitter prioritizes raw durability over country club aesthetics. Without glass, this rig tips the scales at a hefty 8.2 pounds, making it clear this is not your lightweight mountain companion. It eats 30-06 for breakfast and uses that extra mass to its absolute advantage when it comes to taming the beast. Under the hood, the real secret to its legendary accuracy is the floating bolt head. Instead of machining the bolt as one rigid piece of steel, Savage engineered the front of the bolt to have a tiny amount of free play. During lockup, this microscopic wiggle room allows the bolt face to automatically self-center and square up perfectly flush against the chamber. That clever piece of engineering gives you custom shop concentricity out of a mass-produced action. At the range, the AccuTrigger feels like snapping a dry icicle in half, giving you a remarkably crisp break for a factory setup. Thanks to that 8+ pounds of weight, the heavy recoil turns into a dull rolling wave rather than a sharp sting. But here's the truth. The extraction cycle gets notoriously sticky if you feed it cheap steel-cased ammunition, demanding a serious slap to the bolt handle to cycle the next round. Over the 22-inch button-rifled barrel and receiver, you get a bomb-proof tungsten gray Cerakote finish that shrugs off rust and abuse. For the stock, Savage went with an olive drab green Hogue overmolded shell that gives you a rubberized grip, staying glued to your hands even when covered in mud. The damage to your wallet is incredibly reasonable, running you anywhere from $550 to $650. Stepping up the game to number 6, we find the Bergara B14 Hunter. This Spanish-built rig brings custom shop barrel quality to a mass-produced frame. It spits the mighty 30-06 with serious precision and tipping the scales at around 7.1 pounds. It rides the perfect line between a backcountry hiking tool and a stable shooting platform. Opening the action, you will notice the buttery smooth bolt glide. It features a coned bolt nose mechanism, which essentially machines the front of the bolt and the rear of the chamber into a matching funnel shape. This smooths out the feeding process entirely, meaning heavy, flat-nosed hunting rounds glide straight from the internal magazine into the chamber without snagging on any sharp metal edges. Sending a round downrange, the curved performance trigger breaks like shattering a thin piece of slate. The recoil hits you like a sudden punch to a heavy bag, firm but entirely manageable. I know the internet fanboys will hate this, but I would run this factory setup over a lot of high-dollar custom rigs any day of the week. Let's be real about the downside though. The glass fiber reinforced polymer stock is wrapped in a soft-touch rubber coating that feels great in the store. But out in the real world, that finish wears off if you just look at it wrong. It peels fast when dragged through thick briars or splashed with harsh gun-cleaning solvents. To get this 22-inch, 4140 chrome moly steel barrel rig into your safe, street price is going to run you between $825 to $949. Now we get serious at number 5 with the Winchester Model 70 Extreme Weather Stainless Steel. Known by many as the rifleman's rifle, this platform is the ultimate foul weather survival tool. It feeds on 30-06, weighing in right at 6.5 to 7.2 pounds. Under the hood, it features the legendary Pre-64 style controlled round feed system. Instead of just pushing a loose cartridge toward the chamber like a standard push feed, it utilizes a massive, non-rotating steel claw extractor that aggressively grabs the rim of the cartridge the second it leaves the magazine. That mechanical connection physically locks the round to the bolt face through the entire forward stroke, guaranteeing a reliable feed, even if you are cycling the gun sideways while getting pelted by freezing rain. Applying pressure to the MOA trigger snaps like breaking a thick, dry pine board in half. Taking the kick from the 22-inch fluted stainless barrel, the recoil lands like the blunt thud of a heavy sandbag against your shoulder. Let's be real. You're paying for survival reliability here, not bench rest bragging rights. The major deal breaker for the purists is that accuracy with commercial ammunition often hovers around 1.5 MOA, which feels a bit loose compared to the laser-precise groupings we expect today. Secured inside a Bell & Carlson composite stock, a fully integrated aluminum bedding block guarantees that your zero will not shift when the temperature drops below freezing. This is an absolute tank of a rig, but wait until you see the monster at number 1. Walking out of the gun shop with this survival tool requires handing over 1,339. Pushing into the upper tier at number 4, we have the Remington 700 Alpha 1 Hunter. Look, the original 700 action practically built the modern hunting industry, but this new iteration takes it from a basic deer tool to a custom-grade precision machine. Weighing in at roughly 7.3 pounds, it chucks .30-06 with surgical accuracy. Wrapped in a rugged AG Composites carbon fiber and fiberglass stock, thermal shifting is completely eliminated. Your point of impact stays dead center whether you are out in the humid swamps or freezing high desert. Inside the 22-inch fluted barrel, it features 5R rifling instead of traditional 90-degree square-cut grooves. 5R uses 5 sloped lands and grooves that are slightly offset from each other. That specific geometry reduces bullet jacket deformation as it travels down the bore, which significantly cuts down on copper fouling and creates a tighter gas seal. This translates to incredibly consistent velocities and sub-MOA groupings straight out of the box. When you engage the flat-faced Timney Elite Hunter trigger, it snaps like biting into a crisp green apple because of the lightning-fast lock time and the solid receiver footprint. The kick hits you like a firm, controlled shove from a heavy oak door. The action cycles with zero slop, ejecting those spent brass casings with authority through the enlarged ejection port. Covered in a sleek black Cerakote finish, the bare metal is entirely protected from harsh elements. Honestly, the barrier to entry is going to hurt. For a platform that started out as an everyman rifle, dropping this kind of cash on a Remington badge might give you some serious sticker shock. Expect to drop right around $2,035 at the gun counter for this rig. Still, if you want custom shop performance with mass market aftermarket support, this is a serious tactical tool. Entering the elite tier at number 3, we have the Weatherby Model 3 07 Adventure SD. Now, Weatherby built their legacy on massive 9-lug magnum actions, but this new rig proves they know exactly how to evolve with the times. Carrying a solid mass of 7.5 to 8 pounds, it eats .30-06 for breakfast and looks incredibly sharp doing it. By utilizing a pure Remington 700 footprint, this setup allows you to tap into the largest aftermarket parts ecosystem on the planet if you ever decide to ditch the factory wood for a carbon fiber chassis. Diving into the mechanics, the absolute standout feature is the factory-installed TriggerTech system running their patented frictionless release technology. Instead of traditional flat metal surfaces scraping against each other to release the sear, this brilliant piece of engineering uses a free-floating cylindrical roller positioned directly between the sear and the trigger face. That roll-in action completely removes mechanical drag from the equation, effectively neutralizing the shooter error that normally comes from anticipating a heavy, gritty pull. When you apply pressure to that trigger, it breaks like snapping a frozen carrot in half. Taking the recoil from the barrel feels like a stubborn draft horse leaning heavy into a leather harness, delivering a firm, steady push rather than a violent, sharp snap. Cosmetically, the gorgeous, fancy walnut stock with a rosewood tip carries a deeply traditional vibe, while the graphite black Cerakote finish ruthlessly guards the bare steel against rust and corrosion. Listen, here is the real deal breaker with this platform. The 24 to 26-inch fluted barrel comes threaded from the factory in half by 28, instead of the heavy industry standard of 5/8 by 24, used for almost all .30 caliber rigs. finding a robust suppressor mount or specialized muzzle brake adapter for that thinner thread pitch can be a serious mechanical headache that stalls your whole build. If you want to lock this classic workhorse into your safe, it is going to empty your wallet by exactly $2,149. Closer to the crown, we have the Browning X Bolt 2 Hunter sitting at number 2. This rig perfectly bridges the gap between old-school walnut aesthetics and modern manufacturing tolerances, tipping the scales at a highly maneuverable 6.6 pounds. It wears a traditional Grade 1 walnut stock that feels incredibly warm in the bare hands. The 22-inch Sporter Contour barrel slings .30-06 with absolute authority, all wrapped up in a rugged matte blue finish that means serious business in the timber. Looking inside the action, you find a brilliantly engineered 3-lug bolt system, instead of a standard 2-lug design that forces you to lift the handle a full 90 degrees. This setup gives you a short, lightning-fast 60-degree bolt lift. That tight geometry means your hand completely clears the ocular bell of your optic, keeping your knuckles intact and allowing for incredibly fast follow-up shots when a big buck is on the move. Squeezing the newly redesigned DLX trigger, it snaps like crushing a thin mint candy. To manage the heavy hits of the .30-06, Browning utilizes their Inflex recoil pad technology. The internal directional ribs actually collapse and pull the comb down and away from your face during the shot. Absorbing that recoil feels like a heavy, muffled thud from a rubber mallet, rather than a sharp crack to your cheekbone. But let's be real about the absolute headache with this platform. The proprietary rotary magazines are going to severely drain your wallet. When you are miles deep in the backcountry and lose a magazine, you cannot just borrow a standard box mag from your hunting buddy. And finding a spare at a small town hardware store is practically impossible. If you want this classic beauty in your safe, it sets you back exactly $1,249. Taking the absolute top spot at number 1, we have the Christensen Arms Ridgeline FFT. Look, this is the apex predator of the mountain. It gives you the featherweight mobility of the Bergara at number 6. But with an aerospace-grade construction that puts the Remington 700 at number 4 to absolute shame. This rig simply dominates because it brings custom shop perfection straight to the rugged backcountry without any excuses. Tipping the scales at a ghost like 5.3 to 5.8 pounds, it slings .30-06 with brutal efficiency. The secret to its reign is the 22-inch 416R stainless steel core barrel wrapped in Aerograde carbon fiber. Instead of just hanging a solid, heavy steel bull barrel off the receiver, this specific wrapping process gives you the extreme rigidity required for pinpoint, long-range precision while simultaneously shedding massive amounts of dead weight and dissipating barrel heat far faster than traditional bare steel. Applying pressure to that trigger tech system snaps like fracturing a brittle sheet of winter ice. Now, firing a full-power .30 caliber cartridge in a 5-pound rifle should theoretically shatter your collarbone. To fix that, Christensen engineered a massive side baffle muzzle brake straight from the factory. That brake forcefully channels the expanding blast gases out sideways. Taking that recoil feels like a heavy, broad-handed push against your chest rather than a vicious spike of kinetic energy. Secured inside their exclusive flash-forged technology carbon fiber stock, the entire platform shrugs off the worst weather conditions imaginable. You get all the mechanical advantages of a dedicated precision platform wrapped into a lightweight hunting package. To lock the undisputed king of the mountain into your safe, you are looking at handing over 1999 up to 2276. Look, at the end of the day, you do not need the newest, flashiest caliber to put meats in the freezer. The 30-06 has been dropping heavy game for over a century, and with these modern rigs, it is more lethal than ever. Whether you are dragging a heavy workhorse through the thick timber or scaling a steep peak with a featherweight carbon fiber platform, there is a specific tool here that fits the exact mission. Stop making excuses about your gear. Get your reps in and know your holds before you step out into the woods. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.